What do you think is the future for the Torpedo bat? Auburn, I appreciate this comment. I appreciate you for being here in the Super Chat. Will it be made illegal? What if Torpedo bat players start breaking records? So a couple weekends ago, first full weekend of Major League Baseball, right? I hear about Torpedo bats. I instantly make a couple videos. I tell people what they're all about, who makes them, who is behind them. Good old Lenny, who's now with the Marlins and kind of came up with this during his employment with the Yankees. How much have you heard about Torpedo bats in the last 2 weeks? Not as much, right? And everybody was going to get an order. Everybody was going to try them. There were like 12 players that had them, and like another dozen had them on order, and like maybe 14 total teams were soon getting involved with ordering Torpedo bats. But like, have the Yankees scored a bunch of runs every single game? Now, they're the Yankees too, but how about other teams and other players who we know ordered these bats? How are they doing? Why aren't they lighting baseball on fire? I hate to say it, but I think the Torpedo bat situation was this. And I still think there is something to the science of it, and I still think that if you're the right type of hitter matched up with this certain type of bat where the barrel is just different shaped and it's tapered at the very end at the cup, you already know what it is. But I think what might have happened here is that because it was so new and fresh coming out of spring training, and the Yankees had that first weekend where they scored like 35 runs in 3 games and 9 homers one day, and Judge had 3 or 4 homers within the first couple games. I think we all got bamboozled a little bit into thinking that this was going to revolutionize hitting. It was going to change things for everybody. Anybody who picks one up, it'd be perfect. I still think it's a very specialty thing for certain hitters who hit the ball on the bat, make contact, and usually in a different spot of the bat. So they're just trying to basically move where the mass is, where the barrel is, and try to taper the weight differently. I wonder, and it's still going to take us like half a season to really figure out the answer to this. I think though everybody just got excited because it was new and it was discovered and people didn't know about it. People on the inside knew about it, but even they were like, yeah, we've known about this. It's not a big deal. You think it's a big deal? Yes, we do. I think what's going to happen is that Torpedo bats may not be the game changer that we thought they could be after that first weekend. But time will tell. When will I make an evaluation on that? Probably by June. Let's see how June goes until we have a large enough sample size of 2 things. Who has been using a Torpedo bat this entire time? And what do their stats look like? And some players are going to have a better season inherently with the same bat or a different bat. But my point is the stats are independent of each other because everybody's having a different season. But on the average, if a player started using a Torpedo bat this year, what happened to their stats? What happened to the average stats for all the players using these bats? That's what I want to know, and I guarantee you somebody's already working on that story, and I'll probably do that video in a couple months. Auburn, that is a great thing to bring up. Thank you for that. Aaron is in Salt Lake City. P.S. I hope they keep the name Hockey Club. I do too. At this point, right? You've already had a full year as the Utah Hockey Club, and you've got your colors and you've got the sweaters. Now, I do think they need to add a little bit of something to the logo and the jersey and the sweaters, but have your mascot be the Yeti. The Utah Yeti is the mascot. You're called the Utah Hockey Club, and your caricature, your mascot figure is just a Yeti. It is that simple. That is the end game right there. Because if you go with mammoth, then you're going to have the issue of, well, are they the mammoth or the mammoths, plural or singular? The mammoth logo and icon and imagery is just never going to be as good as a Yeti. And so that's how you get around it. You're not calling your team the Utah Yeti. You're calling them the Utah Hockey Club. And your mascot is a Yeti. Ryan Smith, give me a call if you if you need that explained. Daniel from Northern California. Let's go A's, huh? Tell me more about that. You must be from the 916 area code. You may not be aware of, I don't know, the last 5-10 years, But okay, you do you, Daniel. Again, I'll be honest, not being confrontational here. You just got to tell me more. You got to give me good reasoning behind that. You can't just blurt that out and think that I'm on the same page as you. I'm instantly not, but I can be explained. If you've got a story and reasoning, then okay, I'm with you. The 2021 World Series champ KJ. Do you think the NHL will expand and give Atlanta another chance and win? I want my Thrashers back. Well, I do think the NHL is considering expansion, but 32, which they just arrived at, is such a perfectly symmetrical number. Why is that? 16 teams in each conference, 8 teams in each division, 8, 8, 8, 8, 32. 16 plus 16, 32. 16 out of 32 teams make the playoffs. So what happens if you get to 34 teams? Do you have 17 teams in the playoffs? No, you can't. That doesn't work bracket-wise. What happens when you eventually get to 36 teams? Do you really expand to an 18-team playoff? And even if you do, right, then it's 9 and 9. Like, that doesn't work either. 32 is perfect. 8 and 8, and 8 and 8, that's 8 times 4. The playoffs are, that's what I was trying to say, 8 and 8 for the playoffs, right? That makes up the 16 of 32 teams. Don't try and do math here on the spot, Brazil. But the point is that I think that's a consideration. I think, yes, of course, the league would want to get some of those expansion fees going. I mean, if Vegas was like a couple $100 million and was Seattle $600 million for the expansion fee, you'd have to think that the next expansion fee that comes out is probably getting pretty close to $1 billion. Times that by 1 or 2 or maybe 3. So in my opinion, the NHL just needs to do this. They need to have a plan of expansion, right? So at 32, if they say they're going to add 1, that can't just be the plan. The plan needs to be, here's our 15-year plan or 10-year plan to expand by 2 teams or 4 teams. They're going to do an even number, but they just need to decide what cities, what years, and they don't need to maybe even declare this, but I hope behind the scenes that's what they declare. To your point about Atlanta, I don't know. It's for me, and the idea of where they're going to build that arena, I believe like 40 miles north of downtown Atlanta. Is that the same one that we're thinking about here? I know there were multiple sites considered for Atlanta and a new arena. It would have to be sold to me that this is going to work for a third time and be different than it was the first and second time, which I realize were a couple decades ago and then like last decade or 2 ago. So it would have to be spelled out. You'd have to sell me on the fact that Atlanta deserves a third shot. And I know prior ownership was not great and the situations were not great, but you'd have to prove to me that that market is really clamoring for it. I've heard New Orleans. I don't think that's a realistic possibility. I do think Houston very much is in the mix. And I would hope, like, no offense, World Series champ KJ, I would hope that Phoenix is tops on the list to get a team back, right? It's not that you talk about things not being their fault. It was 1,000% not the fault of fans that the Coyotes left. Bromley Lowe, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. If Howard Cosell fought Bob Costas in a no-holds-barred cage match, who comes out alive? All right, well, first off, Bob Costas is still standing. But on that note, and I love Bob Costas. He's my dude. Bob's not the biggest guy. Now that I don't know that I've ever shared this. Bob was a guest here on my YouTube channel. And a couple weeks after we did that, he was in town in San Francisco for the NBA All-Star Weekend. We got together and had a little lunch in downtown San Francisco. I met Bob. And I'll just say, as a little fella myself, Bob and I are of similar stature. See, I'm getting so flustered here. So if Howard Cosell was a big dude, and I don't know, I never saw him in person. Obviously, just age and lives never crossed paths. If Howard Cosell's a big dude, I would just instantly say he's probably got to have the advantage there. And if you think about Howard Cosell, you got to probably think that he was a bigger guy than normal. Is that imitation is the highest form of flattery? I don't know if I did a good job there. I'm sorry, Bob Costas. You're my buddy, and I appreciate your mentorship so far. for the last handful of months, but I think maybe Bob would disagree. Maybe Bob will see this. That's how he found me. Bob Costas found me. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, I did a chat with Bob and posted it here on the channel maybe about 2 months ago. I think we recorded that maybe in January, at the end of January, beginning of February. And Bob and I got in contact, I want to say maybe November of last year. He texted me. I was actually sitting right here. I just finished recording some videos. I got a text, crazy number, or a number I didn't have in my phone. I think it was a New York number. Hey, Brody, this is Bob Costas. What? No, that's not true. It was true. We talked on the phone maybe the next day, something like that, and then I knew. And I didn't ask him to be on my YouTube channel here instantly. We talked on the phone, and I said, you know what? I don't want to ruin what a good chat we had by me asking you for a favor. So I'm going to wait like 2 months, and then I'll ask you for the favor. And I did. I waited until 2025. Chance, I really appreciate you for being here in the Super Chat. Okay, I can see you're a Giants fan. I see a JUNG-HOO Lee reference on here. I can't wait to see what this question's about. Why haven't the Giants got a game in South Korea with the celebrity of JUNG-HOO Lee? Saw a highlight video of all his at-bats from today get over 100,000 views. He is an A-list celebrity in Korea. You know what? I just think it's awesome, the following that he has. Now, did I also see that he had a pretty intense, like a walk-up song, but it was a walk-up like theme song where all the fans would like chant or do something in unison. So like what a cool thing to have. Not only your walk-up song that everybody loves, but the fact that the fans also get into it too. They don't really do that for a lot of players here in the United States with Major League Baseball. I have to say, Chance, first off, thank you for the Super Chat. I've been dabbling in some Giants. I watched today. It's just, until hockey's over, I've been very consumed with my own work. So I'm letting these like 2.5 weeks of crossover happen, and then I'll pay a lot more attention to almost every Giants game probably. But JUNG-HOO Lee, even last year, before he got hurt, and it was so sad when he got hurt, crashing into the wall, and you're like, no, he was doing everything productive. And last year he was leading off, this year he's not, but getting on base, rarely striking out, just putting the ball in play, making contact, playing a very good defensive center field. He's quick on the base paths. There was so much to like even last year in a very small sample about JUNG-HOO Lee. And I can see why they love him in Korea. I really can. And I can see why Giants fans are maybe now finally starting to realize what they actually have in him. And I, knock on wood, hope he stays healthy for the remainder of this year. What a great addition. What a great player. I'm so happy they have him. You know what? Maybe you're giving me some advice here. Maybe chances I start to do some Giants videos when the summer really hits. Maybe I ought to do a weekly JUNG-HOO Lee update video. if I want those 100,000 views, maybe you're helping me out here. George wondering, and George, thank you for being here on the Super Chat. Why not cover CTE in sports like gridiron football, hockey, wrestling, and rugby? We've talked about CTE here on this channel in a variety of different ways. I think football players suffer it the most, just the head-to-head contact of linemen on the offensive and defensive side. Certainly, though, any player, a linebacker making a tackle, a running back trying to get through the line and getting tackled. I think hockey players and CTE, I think we may have seen that get cut down on a little bit. And when I say it's the lack of fighting, it's that fighting has declined, right? The amount of fights in the NHL. I mean, even from 10, 15 years ago. But really, for me, it's not even the physical contact of a fist to a head in fighting, although that still is an issue. The real big thing for me with fighting in hockey is when two players are wrapped up at the end of the fight, and then they both fall back or one falls back, and it's the back of that player's head. Now, their hands are tied. Imagine slipping and falling back like this on the ice, and you can't brace, what can you do, stick your butt out maybe? You can't, I touched the tree there. You can't protect yourself. You can't protect this area. Your bucket might already be off because that's part of the fight, right, as you take your helmet off. But the back of the head and the fall at the end of the fight, that's every single time the part where I go, get real worried about that. Sheldon Jackson, which cities should get NBA franchises and which teams would you have move conferences, in order to get it to 32? Okay, so what I'm going to have to do is pull up the current alignment right now, like that second part of the question is the hard part. The easy part for me, I'll tell you the next two cities right here, right now. You ready? Seattle and Las Vegas. Seattle, Las Vegas. Seattle, Las Vegas. Now wait, what was, oh, I see it was doing that over there. I say this because Seattle never should have lost a team to Oklahoma City. And Las Vegas, I do think, is a market that the NBA would do really well with. I really do. And I think there's two ways about this. Whoever buys an expansion team for Las Vegas, they're probably going to want to build their own arena, have their own situation, which is crazy, right? You would have a football stadium that seats 70,000, T-Mobile Arena, which is less than 10 years old. It's off the strip just a little bit. That seats like, what, 17, 18,000 maybe? And then you'd build another indoor arena. You also have the Thomas and Mack Center. You also have the Event Center at Mandalay Bay. You also have the Bud Light Arena, wherever the Las Vegas Aces play. You've got so many indoor venues. It's like, would you really build another one for a basketball team? Maybe. But I don't know. I've been looking at tourism numbers in Las Vegas, and everything is down and declining. And I'm not saying it's terrible, but it's not where it was at a peak 6 months or 8 months or 12 months ago. But I do think that Las Vegas would do well with an NBA team. It's in the winter months. It's indoors. It's only 41 home dates a year. It's only 17,000 fans, right? They could use the arena probably for other things. But that's what I think. And then Seattle, I mean, the Sonics left because they couldn't find the resources and the ability to fix up Key Arena. Well, guess what? The hockey team was able to do it. It's now Climate Pledge Arena. And I was just there less than a year ago, walking the grounds of Seattle Center, and people are still wearing Sonics gear. And I know that's got to feel weird, right? That they lost their team. At least they didn't lose their team's identity and their name and their colors. They can still wear that proudly. But can you imagine someday if the announcer says with the players out of the tunnel, "And here are your Seattle Supersonics." Like how like that? Like how, you know how nuts people are going to go for that when they actually see that all over again. LD again, was the MLS Apple deal a mistake for MLS? I just did a video on this not too long ago, LD, and I don't know if you're new to the channel here or not. So I probably won't be able to say it as well here as I did in the video because it had tons of preparation and background. But the simple point is this. The problem with the Apple deal for MLS is that it kind of puts them behind a paywall. It does. For most of the games, most of the matches, for most of the season. And so the hardcore MLS fan, no problem. They're subscribing. They knew where to find the games. They're tuned in. They're trained in. They're good. But if MLS is trying to grow like it is, then putting it all behind a paywall and people can't find it and they're not just flipping channels. Oh, I'll watch these two teams. They don't get that, right? When you jump behind the paywall, you do get subscription fees. Apparently, you know, I've seen some of their productions. It looks good to my eye so far. Like the quality of the work is good. It's just hidden, right? So when I say mistake, I'm not going to say it's a mistake. Streaming is the future. Packages like with Apple or Amazon or maybe Netflix when they ever get into this, those are all understandable things. And the bar has been and kept and set pretty high for these types of streaming productions. So I'm not going to say it's a mistake, but I do think one of the things that MLS is realizing is that when they went with Apple, like they're now off the radar of the casual fan. And if they're still trying to grow and expand, you need the casual fan.